It happened in the span of 6 minutes. 6 gut-punching, breath-stealing minutes. I was sitting across from him, still reeling from our biggest quarter ever, when he slid the termination letter across the table like he was handing me a receipt. No warning. No gratitude. Just cold betrayal, masked in corporate jargon. I think I forgot how to breathe. Before we dive in, where are you listening from, and what time is it for you right now? Drop a comment below. I read everyone. Help us reach 10,000 subscribers before the end of the month. I made a promise to my dog. Once we hit 10K, I'll buy him a brand new cooling mat. He's counting on you, and so am I. So if you enjoyed the story, please hit that subscribe button. My name is Caleb Rourke. I'm 33, sharp-eyed, straight-talking, and I've always believed that work speaks louder than politics, until the day politics fired me. I remember the sunlight cutting across the floor of the glass conference room like it was trying to warn me. Everything in that room was too clean, too quiet. Mark, my boss, senior vice president of sales and longtime golden boy of the company, sat at the head of the table like a judge about to read a sentence. The folder in front of him was navy blue with our company logo. And my name. First name. Last name. Bold font. You don't need to be a genius to know what's coming when your name's in a folder, and the HR rep is sitting silently in the corner like a statue. "We're restructuring," he began, his voice dipped in fake empathy. "You've been an incredible asset to the team, Caleb, but unfortunately, your role is being dissolved effective immediately." I blinked, laughed even. I thought it was a joke. "Wait, you're serious?" He gave a slight nod, eyes sliding to the HR rep like he wanted a buffer between him and whatever came next. But I wasn't going to yell. I didn't need to. Because I had just led the team that secured Helix Systems, our largest contract in company history. $12.8 million over 3 years. That deal alone meant we wouldn't just hit our annual targets. We'd blow past them. I had the receipts, the relationships, the late nights and weekend calls logged like journal entries on my calendar. And now I was getting tossed like last week's coffee? "What about Helix?" I asked. My voice was calm, but underneath something sharp was rising. Mark shrugged. "We'll manage." "You'll manage? You don't even know the client's dog's name." "I do, because I listened, I remembered, I cared." I looked at the HR rep, Claire, who couldn't even meet my eyes, and then back at Mark. "So let me guess. No severance?" "Standard package," he said, tapping the folder. 30 days, outplacement services." "And my team?" I asked. "They know yet?" "They'll be informed later today." I stood up, the chair scraping behind me like a protest. "You have no idea what you've just done," I said, and meant every word. Mark leaned back, smug as ever. "I think we'll be just fine." As I walked out, my phone buzzed with a message from a senior contact at Helix. "Hey Caleb, heard some weird rumor you're leaving? Call me ASAP." My stomach flipped. Because if Helix found out what really happened, if they pulled the contract, Mark wouldn't just lose face, he'd lose everything. I stepped into the parking garage, still holding the damn navy blue folder. It felt like a divorce packet from a marriage I'd poured my soul into. My hands were shaking, but not from fear, from rage that hadn't yet found words. The second I hit the ignition, I called Connor Jang, Director of Procurement at Helix Systems. We'd worked that deal for 8 months together, weekly calls, late-night texts. He once asked me to reschedule my vacation to meet his CEO on 2 days' notice, and I did. No questions. That's the kind of guy I am. He picked up before the first ring ended. "Caleb, is it true?" "Depends what you heard," I said, keeping my voice steady. "I just got off the phone with Brenda at your company. She said you're no longer with them. I thought it was a prank." "No prank," I said. "I was fired. Today. Out of nowhere." Silence. "Wait," he said, his voice sharp now. "They let you go? After all the work you did on our contract? That's insane." "Yeah, that's one word for it." I didn't need to say the next part. Connor already knew what was on the line. Helix was a relationship-driven company. Trust wasn't given. It was built brick by brick, and I was the bricklayer. Without me, they'd be flying blind. "We signed that deal because of you," he said flatly. "You were the only reason our board greenlit it. The execs loved you." I nodded to myself. I knew this, but hearing him say it felt like an earthquake cracking through the lies Mark had just tried to bury me under. "Connor," I said carefully, "you need to do what's best for Helix, but if you're worried about support going forward—" He cut me off. "We'll pause the contract, effective immediately. I'll tell legal to halt onboarding." I froze. "Wait, you're pulling the deal?" "Temporarily," he said, "until we understand what's happening. But between us, if they can fire you that easily, it makes us question who's running the ship." My heart was pounding. I didn't want to burn bridges. That wasn't my style. But watching the first domino fall was electric. It wasn't about revenge. Not really. It was about truth having weight again. "Keep me posted," Connor said. "And Caleb? If you ever go solo or start something new, call me first." The call ended. I sat there in stunned silence, phone still in my hand. I'd just lost my job, but I might have gained something much, much bigger. That night, I poured myself a drink, opened my laptop, and stared at a blank Google Doc titled Blueprint. Because if the rules were this rigged, maybe it was time to build my own damn table. The Google Doc sat blank for hours. I stared at the cursor like it owed me answers, like somewhere inside its blink was a roadmap to make sense of the betrayal. But the truth was, I'd already been laying the groundwork without knowing it. See, when you work under someone like Mark, you start to notice patterns. The way he'd borrow your slide decks and present them as his own. How he'd show up 10 minutes into a pitch call, say one line, and somehow get the credit. It was death by 1,000 ego cuts. And about 6 months ago, something in me shifted. I started tracking everything. Notes on client calls, feedback I'd personally received, internal metrics I'd improved, all of it in a locked, encrypted journal file. I didn't know why I was doing it at the time, maybe some instinct deeper than pride. Turns out it wasn't paranoia, it was self-defense. Now I had a client, Helix, unofficially on pause. A major deal twisting in the wind. And Mark? He had no idea the contract was slipping through his fingers because of what he'd just done to me. But here's the part he really didn't see coming. I wasn't planning on crawling back. I was planning on building. I called my old friend Mason Wells, a tech-savvy sales strategist I'd worked with years ago before we'd gone separate ways. "You still consulting?" I asked. "Depends," he replied. "You paying or plotting?" "Both," I said. "I need help starting a boutique B2B sales firm. Relationship first. Lean. Agile. Real humans, not egos. And I want to steal everything we hate about traditional enterprise models and flip it on its head." Mason laughed. "You sound like you just got dumped and discovered fire." I did. By morning, we had a name. North Spur Collective. 2 days later, I filed the LLC. By day 3, I had an NDA signed with a logo designer, a temp landing page, and a pitch deck titled What Sales Should Be. I wasn't just building something to compete with Mark's company. I was building the alternative clients didn't know they were starving for. But the corporate gods weren't done with their little games yet. On day 5, I got a call from Claire, the HR rep from my firing. "Hi, Caleb," she said nervously. I probably shouldn't be calling you, but there's something you need to know." "Okay." "After you left, Mark sent an internal memo. He told the exec team you quit, that you had another job lined up, that this was all your decision." I went completely still. "He said I quit?" "Yes. And there's more. He's pitching to absorb your accounts and team under his direct oversight. He's calling it a streamlined restructure." My blood ran cold. This wasn't just betrayal. This was a cover-up. And suddenly I knew exactly what I had to do next. I stared at my phone long after Claire hung up. My pulse was thudding in my ears. I wasn't even angry in the explosive, yelling into a pillow kind of way. I was angry in the still way, the kind of stillness you feel before a thunderstorm breaks the sky open. He told them I quit? He was rewriting the narrative, erasing the truth and replacing it with a clean, self-serving lie. Classic Mark. Fire the guy who just made you look bad with his results, then convince the brass he left on his own, disloyal and ambitious, because God forbid they find out who really built that $12.8 million deal. But now he was making it personal. He wasn't just covering his ass, he was trying to erase me. And he didn't know I had proof. That encrypted journal I mentioned? It was more than a log. It was a timeline. Emails, Slack messages, client call transcripts, deal memos, everything with timestamps. I even had the original proposal for Helix, fully annotated, with comments from both their legal and mine. And I had the kicker. A video recording of our final strategy call with Helix's procurement team. Mark had skipped it, as usual, but I had screen-shared the closing presentation. Connor had literally said, "You're the reason we're moving forward with this. Tell your leadership we're all in. Because of you." That was 2 weeks before I was let go. I packaged it all into a clean, bulletproof PDF. No accusations, no ranting, just facts, dates, names, and receipts. Then I sent it to 3 people. Brenda, Helix's general counsel, Daniela Roth, our company's chief legal officer, and most importantly, Avery Beck, the CEO. No subject line, just one line in the body of the email. In case you're curious about why I really left. Then I closed my laptop and waited. The fallout started 36 hours later. First, Connor texted me. "Heads up, our CEO just pulled out of the Helix onboarding entirely. I think your bomb just detonated." Then, Mason called. "Dude, I think we just got a gift-wrapped opportunity. One of your old team members messaged me on LinkedIn asking if I was working with you. They're jumping ship." By the end of the week, I had 4 ex-colleagues reaching out saying they'd had enough of the bullshit. A quiet email from Daniela. Just one sentence. "Thank you for your professionalism. I'm so sorry." And an offer from Helix to become an independent vendor under Northspur. Full retainer, no middleman. Mark's empire? It was starting to rot from the inside out. But poetic justice wasn't the goal. Not really. The real victory. The team I once built from scratch was now looking to follow me. Not because I promised more money, but because they believed in how I did the job. Now it was time to give them something worth believing in. The Monday after the fallout, I met 2 of my old team members, Jess and Malik, at a corner booth in a quiet cafe just outside downtown. Jess looked tired. Not just long week tired, soul tired. She'd been my right hand during the Helix deal, sharp as hell and twice as loyal. Malik, one of our youngest SDRs, had a hunger I saw in myself 10 years ago. They didn't waste time. "We're done," Jess said before the waitress even brought coffee. "Mark's been parading around like he single-handedly closed Helix. He's already pitching the board on turning your department into a high-efficiency hybrid model." Malik snorted. Translation: Fire the rest of us next quarter and outsource the work to his golf buddies. I leaned in. You sure you want out? Jess nodded. I want to build something that isn't soul-sucking, something real. If that's what Northspur is, I'm in. Malik tapped the table. Same. You believed in me when I was still cold-calling car dealerships. I've got your back. I didn't get emotional easily, but I had to look away for a second. These people weren't just ex-employees. They were proof that what I built mattered, that I mattered. By Friday, 2 more joined, then another. Word was spreading. And just like that, Northspur Collective wasn't just an idea anymore. It was a movement. We rented a co-working space downtown. Small. Nothing fancy. Just 3 glass-walled offices and an open bullpen with second-hand desks and a view of the city skyline we'd been pushed out of. We slapped our values on the wall. Authenticity, precision, partnership, zero bullshit. And we started reaching out, not to steal clients, that wasn't the play, but to reintroduce ourselves with a new mission, real relationships, real strategy, real outcomes. And guess what? People responded. Because deep down, everyone's tired of being treated like a number. We just put a name to that feeling and built a company around solving it. Then came the voicemail. It was Mark. His voice was clipped, corporate, with just the faintest whiff of panic under the surface. Caleb, I just heard you're speaking to some of our clients. We need to talk. This isn't the legacy you want to leave, man. Legacy? He fired me. Lied about it. Tried to erase me. And now that his grip was slipping, he wanted to talk legacy? I didn't call him back. I forwarded the voicemail to Jess. She replied with one word, checkmate. But the game wasn't over yet. Avery Beck, the CEO, requested a meeting. Strictly off the record, she'd said in her email. I didn't know what she wanted. An apology? A bribe? A cease and desist? All I knew was this. If she thought I was just some bitter ex-employee trying to make noise, she was about to learn exactly what I'd been building in the quiet. Avery Beck was one of those executives who didn't waste words. You felt her authority the second she entered a room, not because she demanded attention, but because she simply owned it. We met in a quiet conference suite at a neutral co-working space. Glass walls, filtered sunlight, 2 black coffees between us. She didn't smile when I walked in, but she didn't frown either. Just watched me with those calculating CEO eyes, like she was reading the footnotes beneath my face. Caleb, she said, thank you for coming. I nodded. Thanks for reaching out. She leaned forward, elbows on the table. Let's skip the formalities. I've read everything you sent, verified it all, talked to our legal team, and I'll be blunt. You were wrongfully terminated. There it was. Finally, in plain language. I didn't flinch. So what happens now? Avery sighed, not out of exhaustion, but out of frustration that had clearly built up behind closed doors. Mark's on administrative leave. Internal review is underway. Frankly, he's cooked. The board's already circling. Your termination was a cover-up, plain and simple. But I didn't ask to meet with you just to say that. She paused. I want to offer you your job back, your real job. Senior director, autonomy, your own team, double your previous salary, and full control over the Helix account, should they return. I let the words hang in the air. Because this was the dream offer. The ultimate redemption arc. The part where the hero gets the throne back. But I wasn't here to climb their ladder anymore. I'd started building my own damn building. I appreciate it, I said slowly, but I'm not coming back. Her eyes narrowed slightly, not out of offense, but intrigue. Why? Because I'm already doing what I was meant to do, I said. And I'm doing it with people who chose to follow me after the fall. I'm not interested in fixing a broken culture from the inside. I'm building something that was never broken to begin with. Avery nodded. Slowly. Almost respectfully. Fair enough, she said. Then let me make a different offer. That surprised me. She slid a folder across the table. Inside was a vendor agreement. We want to retain Northspur. Direct partnership. Exclusive contract for strategic sales consulting. 1-year term. You build your vision. We fund the execution. I blinked. This wasn't a handout. This was poetic justice with a signature line. I looked her in the eye. Why the change of heart? She gave a slight smile. Because no one rallies loyalty like you, Caleb. And because the future doesn't belong to gatekeepers anymore. It belongs to builders. So I signed the contract. On my terms. Mark? Last I heard, he resigned to explore other opportunities. Translation: ousted in disgrace. Helix re-engaged immediately under Northspur, and within 6 months, our tiny collective had doubled in size, organically, fueled by referrals, trust, and the quiet power of doing things right. No bitterness, no revenge, just clarity earned the hard way. And every morning, when I walk into that glass-walled office with second-hand furniture and first-class talent, I remember the day I got fired. And thank God it happened. Because it wasn't the end. It was the blueprint